Hello and welcome back to the Cocked Dice. I'm back again with another Space Marine conversion video, this week tackling the Emperor's Spears chapter of Space Marines. More specifically, we're going to do one based on the Arakani coastal clan, who are a battlefield scavenging, looting type group. So I've grabbed a bunch of bits from my bits box, including our usual favourite Assault Intercessor. Great base for a body here. I grabbed some bits from Space Wolf kits to kind of drape over him. I decided against the Trident, but this is an equally wicked looking hook from Age of Sigmar, and I've grabbed a bunch of trinkets and other bits to kind of try and reference some of that scavenging, looting of the dead that they do. So let's crack on and get this guy started off. So your first job for tonight's conversion is just stick the guy's body together. Now I'm not going to need these pegs on his arms, certainly not this back arm here, because I'm going to change his pose slightly. Obviously if you're not using easy build ones you can kind of skip this step, but otherwise, based on the Emperor's Spears kind of artwork we've seen, I don't really need to do a huge amount of change to his body. This will do just as it is. So for the main part of tonight's conversion, we're going to be doing a quick weapon swap. We're going to swap in this Kharadron Overlord's spear for this chainsword. Now obviously, A, these hands are the wrong size, and B, they're not really in the greatest position. So we're going to strip this one down a little bit. We're going to cut the spear here, take the bottom off, we'll strip this hand off, and then we'll fit it either side there. So we're going to basically break the spear here for this model. And then any messy areas we can tidy up with a bit of green stuff, or add on a few bits and pieces from our bits box. Now because this spear is fairly thin and the attachment points are quite weak, you're going to need a paper clip or other bit of wire that we can run through the centre of his hand. So the first job on this model is going to be take off this chainsword. So we're just going to cut it off very quickly, just above his hand here, and just below his hand on the other side. And then just take your knife and clean up the area around here. Now for the spear, we need to clean his hands off. So the first part of this is always easiest. Just take a pair of clippers, run it along the shaft of the spear and just clip away. Try and work your way down. Make this as close to the spear shape as possible. Right, that's our first pass. As you can see, we've managed to get fairly close to the shape of the spear we want. We're just going to take our knife and just work our way down here, just stripping off little bits of plastic at a time. Just work your way around really slowly until you've levelled off where the hand used to be to the shaft of the spear. So there we have it. That end of the spear is really nice and cleaned up. We've managed to keep most of the shape of the haft. I'll get on with cleaning the other end up, this end here. I'll be back in a minute. So now we've cleaned this up, so the hand's been removed, we can kind of think about the pose a little bit. Now I want him pointing his spear out ahead of him. If you want to pose the arm so he's holding the spear above him, that'll involve a bit of work around the shoulder, but wouldn't be particularly difficult. So if you're standing holding his spear proud, or you could leave the original position of the sword arm back here and have him carrying his spear behind him. You just have to be a bit careful about how low to the ground you go on that. So first job is very carefully cut your spear in half. I'm going to trim this off as well. I'm going to try and cheat on the angle a little bit and angle it out a little bit further than it's supposed to be. The original sword went in at that sort of angle. We're going to twist this just as far as we can. So we're going to try and drop the pin here, the hole here. So now we've got a hole through there. We need to put a hole in either end of this. Now you've really not got a lot of space to play with here, so drill super carefully and don't stab yourself in the thumb or the finger with your pin vise drill. So now we've got the three parts of our spear ready. I'm going to pop a pin into here, pop the end of the spear on the top of the pin and just check everything's what I want it to be. Yeah, you can see there we've got quite a nice angle on that. I'm going to leave the hook at the bottom, I think that looks better. Now on the bottom end we just need to trim a little bit off here and we'll be able to fit the base of his spear on. Now don't worry about the little gap there, we'll fill that up afterwards with a little bit of green stuff. So we'll now get the basic pose of this guy put together. We'll drop a bit of glue up here. Oh, glue's partly blocked. his arms on and his backpack on and start to see the pose we've got. Now for his head, I'm going to give him this rather cool crest, which has come from the Stern Guard kit of normal Space Marines. You only get one of these in each box, so it's a little expensive to get any of these, but they are really, really cool, and they do fit on Primaris heads perfectly well, if I don't drop it everywhere and get glue all over my fingers. So now he's had a little bit of time to dry off, and that spear is pretty much attached there. We're going to cheat to cover this up a bit. We're going to use this bit of wolf pelt. Now I'm only going to use the arms for this. I'll cut the arms off actually. I might use the head in a minute. But let's carve this down a little bit. So get yourself a nice decent weight blade. I'm going to cut this off first of all at the waist. Then I'm going to try and cut the head off a little bit. So I'll just cut underneath the snout there. And then we'll cut high as we can and diagonally across, like so. We'll do the same on the other side because that can hang down the back. Like that. Now we've got some spare wolf arms. So this one can hang down here, so we can pop it right in that gap there. Oh, I dropped it. We can pop it in right down here, and then we'll use a bit of green stuff to carry it over. I think, in fact, what I might do, can I get this wolf head trimmed down to fit on his shoulder? No, can't fit the wolf head on the shoulder. Chuck that to one side. We'll just pop the arms on. So we'll use the front one here, and the back one we'll trim down a little bit and drop on the rear of the arm there, and then we'll just green stuff between the two of them. So what you want to do is just take a look at the back of them, just try and level it off a bit because you might have some weird bits on it, and then just try and follow the bits of fur, because we need to kind of break this nice neat line up we've just cut in it. That'll make the green stuff a little easier to blend in. This one's a bit of a worse one, you can see here, so we're going to try and cut this bit off here. Like so. Trim the edges around a little bit, and then we'll trim the back down to make it as slim as possible so we can fit it onto his shoulder pad. Just test fit it every now and again. There we go, you can feel that there, that's actually going to sit there really nicely. It's got a slight nice round bulge on it. So we can pop a little bit of glue on his shoulder there, and drop this in just underneath the backpack. Backpack power plant, isn't it, on a Space Marine? Like that. Then the front of him, as we said, we're going to use it to cover up this area here, so we'll just dab the glue on the areas it's going to join in, and we'll drop it on as high as we can get it. I want it to keep coming down quite straight, looking a bit like that. That's coming on really quite nicely now. Oh, I've just realised I was going to swap his pistol out. I'll rip this arm off quickly. I'm going to do a quick pistol swap as well. Because of the sergeant, I thought I'd give him a plasma pistol, and then I completely forgot. Obviously, you can either use the bionic arm that comes with the kit, you can use any old spare arm, or if you've got a hand that's already got a pistol on it, just cut behind the ammo clip there, and across the top of the hand here. Like so, to remove the pistol. You may want to do a bit of cleanup on the back here. So just take a knife and just make sure that's fairly clean. Tidy up any mess around his fingers. Like so, and then you can drop his new pistol on. So while we're waiting for all that to dry, I'll keep away from it for a minute. I'm going to drop in a tabard here. There's loads of different tabards you can use for Space Marines. This one is from Stormcast Eternal. I got a bunch of them as just part of a bits order, and it wasn't actually what I was ordering the kit for. I wanted other stuff from it, but these look really cool in Space Marines. So all we need to do with this is just trim across the top here a little bit and make sure it fits. Just like so. And then we can drop that under his belt down here, and it'll just stick out nicely. So to kind of give him a bit more of a Battlefield scavenger look, we're going to grab this Space Wolf knife, just trim the rune off here, and we'll drop the knife on his back down here. Nice little spot in there for it. Then, as always, because I love him, I'm going to add a tilt shield to the front of him. Just going to put the glue on the back of the tilt shield this time. And then we'll grab a couple of purity seals, of course, because these guys do like their rewards. So we'll grab one for his leg down here. And then I might drop one off the purity seal here, the tilt shield there. Like so. That's going really nicely. He needs a few more minutes to dry off, and then we'll get on to sculpting some fur, and I'll try and give you a quick tutorial on how I do that. So green stuff work is pretty easy. You've seen me do it a few times on various different bits of this video. This is a little different because we're going to try and match some of the texture of the fur. You're going to need yourself a decent blob of green stuff. I'm just going to ease out a bit of this. That should be about the right size. So I can thin this down a little bit because it's part of the wolf, so I want to kind of get it roughly that big. So I've essentially got enough to overlap onto the wolf pelt a little bit, enough to go back here, and I'm going to just pull this down. So there we've got a fairly reasonable shape. It's a little bit thicker over the thing, but he has got one of these wide shoulder pads. I should have probably trimmed the shoulder pad trim off, make this look a bit easier, make this fit a bit easier. So it's going to look a little odd, but I think we can get away with it. So green stuffing fur, some people just jab at it. Yeah, like that. You want to do, you can do a bit of that. You want to try and tease out individual hairs. So essentially you're doing little S shapes in it all the time, like so, because the fur is not straight. And then where we join a bit of plastic, you want to try and pick up some of the hairs. You can see the hairs down this side of the plastic here. They go that way, and then this side of the hand, it goes that way. So we want to try and replicate some of that. If you get little bits that come off, you can either reattach them or just pull them away. Don't go too small. Don't just stab at it. We want to build layers. I always start at the bottom. That's just the way I've always done it. And then you can build layers over the top, and you start to get quite a nice shaggy kind of coat look of it quite quickly as you build up this kind of texture. So it's just little S shapes in the various directions you want it to go in. And then as you get to armour here, you can pull a little bit out, like so. Just tidy it up to a bit of a point, like that. And you've got a really nice bit of fur sticking out onto his shoulder pad there. Let's be a bit careful up here because green stuff's quite thin. Keep your scalpel blade or your pin or whatever you're using to do this really wet, because if it starts to drag, you'll ruin the effect you've already done. If you get any bits you want to build up, you can just stab back in a little bit like this, and then bring it back over again, and we've created a bit of depth. Depends how shaggy a set of fur you want. Just have to be mindful that you are trying to match up. When you're doing stuff like this, you're trying to match up a little bit of the fur that's already attached to this. Whereas if you're sculpting it from scratch, you can kind of go to whatever sort of style you like, and you've got a bit more flexibility and freedom. And again, when it's coming down to a side, we're going to try and cut down into it a little bit to make the fur look like it's folded over. But yeah, the tip is just to keep this S shape going all the time. It can be a back to front S as well. It doesn't have to be a S all the time. But what we want to avoid is just going like that. Because fur does not look like that. Fur is made of individual things. We just want to S shape them out and try and tease out individual hairs a little bit. It's really, honestly, not that difficult. Just need a steadyish hand. You can kind of see there the effect we're going for. So there we have it. I've just finished that up. I've pulled out a few more hairs over his shoulder there, and then again I've just done the same sort of style and just pulled it down to try and match the arm at the back. Now if you wanted to, you could bring it so it sat diagonally and had the arm on the other side, and you'd pull the fur behind the backpack. You just have to be a bit careful sculpting around the backpack. I'd probably do that with the backpack off and then just wet the green stuff and then push the backpack into it again. Obviously, if you had more time as well, you could add a head here, whether a plastic one, and sculpt the fur onto it, or just build one from scratch if you're feeling a bit brave. But for tonight's conversion, he is done. I'll go get him painted up and you'll see him in just a moment. And thanks for joining us here at the Clock Dice. Why not like this video and add a comment below? It really helps boost the channel. And while you're at it, if you click on the icon below, you can subscribe to the channel for all the latest updates as soon as they're live. Why not check out some of our other videos and playlists? You can click on the ones on screen right now. Take care, and we'll see you next time.